I'm Amanda Leitner, and welcome to Rochester Rising, where we amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs. Welcome to episode 243 of the podcast. Thank you so much for deciding to spend some of your time with us today to learn more about small business and the culture of entrepreneurship in Rochester, Minnesota. Whether you frequently tune into the podcast or if this is your first time listening in, we hope that you learn something today from entrepreneurs themselves that can help with your own journey. We release a podcast each Wednesday here at Rochester Rising. You can check in with the podcast wherever you like to listen in to your podcasts, including Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find our podcast plus many articles and videos on our website at rochesterrising.org. We talk with both very new and very experienced business owners, a range of different people, and you can find all of that on our website. Rochester Rising is part of Collider, which is a Rochester, Minnesota-based nonprofit that activates, connects, and empowers early-stage entrepreneurs in the community. You can learn more about Collider and how this organization can help accelerate and assist your own entrepreneurial journey at collider.mn. Our mission at Rochester Rising is to amplify the stories of Rochester entrepreneurs and small business owners through original, insightful content. We launched this storytelling platform in 2016 to tell these stories through unique articles, podcasts, and videos. Before Rochester Rising started, we felt that these stories of entrepreneurship in Rochester just weren't being told in an authentic manner, or they weren't being told from the perspective of the entrepreneur and fully telling the story of what that journey is like in this community. We felt that it was time for entrepreneurship to be elevated in our city. And we knew that we had the right perspective as entrepreneurs ourselves to truly understand and be able to share these stories in an authentic, accurate manner. We work really hard to tell the stories of innovators in this community that otherwise would remain hidden. We believe in something called inspiration capital, making entrepreneurship accessible to everyone who wants to take that leap by telling the stories of people just like you who are taking that journey. We believe that small business is a critical part of this community that should be celebrated. Since Rochester Rising started in 2016, we've released 420 articles and 243 podcasts. Throughout this work, we've told the stories of 209 unique businesses and 264 different entrepreneurs through in-depth interviews. And we've done this all primarily through the work of one person, part-time, over all these years. Now we really need your help. Since its start, Rochester Rising has never really been funded. We've been very grateful for the sponsorships we've received over the years, but they've never been near enough to keep telling these stories, to keep providing inspiration for people who want to be entrepreneurs, and to keep elevating small business in this community. Right now, we're running our latest and hopefully not our last fundraising campaign. We're running this fundraising campaign through the local business for giving. You can donate through the link in our show notes or through the donate button, however that appears where you're listening in. But we're really asking you, if you have found value in this platform, if you've had your story told by Rochester Rising, if you've learned at least one thing from any of these stories that we've told, we really need your help and support at this time. We're running this fundraising campaign through October 15th. We made the very difficult decision to shut down Rochester Rising for good if we don't meet our full campaign goal at that time. If you value what we've built and can offer your support, we need your help. Let's keep telling the real story of entrepreneurship in Rochester, Minnesota. This week, we're sharing with you podcast episode 243 with local business owner Matt Arnold of Detour Athletics. This dad of two has been in the fitness industry for 15 years and is passionate about helping people. Matt opened his current business in 2014 to meet people where they're at with their fitness goals. We have a great podcast in line for you today where we talk about Detour's expansion to a larger space at the end of 2019, surviving 2020, and using mistakes for positive growth, and much more about Matt's journey as a business owner and entrepreneur. You will not want to miss out on today's episode to learn more about this local business. Before we launch into today's podcast, we just wanted to acknowledge our sponsor, CliftonLarsonAllen, or CLA. The team at CLA would love to get to know you, learn about your vision, and see if they can help. CLA is a full-service CPA firm with over 100 offices nationally, including right here in Rochester. They do taxes and audits, but they also focus on helping startups refine their vision, build budgets, work with banks and investors, and track and organize their accounting. They are deeply experienced at building the business systems that allow you to focus on what you do best. Get product market fit, grow sales, hire talent, and create a thriving enterprise. Contact Todd Churchill at toddchurchill@claconnect.com or give him a call at 507-280-2317. All right, so now on to podcast episode 243 with Matt Arnold of Detour Athletics. Well, Matt, thanks for being here today on a beautiful summer day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It is. I just wanted to start by asking you to share a little bit of your background. So what makes you you? What are some of your favorite things to do?
Oh my gosh, that's going to be interesting. All right, so I am a 38-year-old dad of two and married. My wife, she is a Mayo Clinic employee. So I've been in the fitness business for about, I would say close to around 15 years or so. Started teaching martial arts, and then after martial arts, I got into the whole CrossFit thing. I think, I just very much enjoy people. That's kind of one of those things that I just have this weird tendency to build relationships, and I tend to throw myself out there quite a bit. So who I am is who I am, and if you sometimes it's a very strong personality, so sometimes people will get kind of thrown back from that. I'm just very passionate for what I do in my life. So as a gym owner, I'm very passionate in helping people that I get to see day to day. And nothing crazy about me or anything else like that. I just, I love people. I love helping people. I love being a dad. I love being a husband. And it's, that's my life, or that's who I am, I guess.
I feel like that's what it's all about, being able to take what you care about so much and just turn into something that you love to do every day, right?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
So are you from the Rochester community? If not, what got you here and what kind of keeps you here?
So this is a really funny but quick story. So I was adopted, and I've been a Rochester local since I was 4 years old. But my brother and I, who's my biological twin, we were separated at birth. So he was adopted first to my family when he was 2. And then my family found out about me through the orphanage and the agency. So it took them 2 more years before they adopted me when I was 4 years old. And so we were separated at birth because I was with my mother and my brother was with our dad. And then, 4 years later, we're reunited.
That's a super cool story. Yep. You get to be with your brother, Very cool. So we were talking about, you're super passionate about helping people. How did you get started, and what's your history in fitness and wellness?
All right. Well, I feel so growing up, I was actually never very athletic. I mean, I participated in sports growing up, wrestling in middle school and soccer and all, baseball, all that jazz, right? In high school, I started weightlifting, and I really enjoyed weightlifting. But then after high school, I don't know what triggered it, but I think I got really competitive with myself. I wanted to really challenge myself. And so I got really involved with fitness after high school, where I was, I started doing Taekwondo as a martial art and got very serious into that, got into running a lot, and then again, weightlifting. And so after high school, I just started experiencing and trying new things. And so from that point on, it was kind of this is my lifestyle. This is what I really enjoyed. And I was also going to school, part-time, full-time, whatever you want to call it, basically, essentially wasting my time because, I was trying to pursue multiple careers in like medicine, from like nursing to pre-med, whatever, essentially doing it because like my mom, she was a nurse, and she was like, Matt, you need to like do something, be a nurse, because it's a great job, and there's like nothing wrong with that. And so, over, basically from like 18 to like 26, I was, a big fitness junkie. I was doing a lot of Taekwondo, teaching Taekwondo, and then pursuing school. And then I got into a program at Mayo Clinic while I was also working at Mayo Clinic at this time. And I just hated my life, like absolutely hated it. And you could tell because like, I worked like these crazy dumb hours at the clinic. I worked in the lab where like I was drawing blood and IVs and things like that. And one of the best things that has actually happened to me was when I got fired at Mayo. And I think a lot of people will look at when they get fired as something as a negativity. But without me actually getting fired, I would have never pursued where I'm at right now.
Okay. You weren't in the right spot.
No, I was not at the right spot. I realized too, like, so I got fired at Mayo, but I was still in the health science program at Mayo as well.
Okay.
And then I realized when I was in this program, I hated it because to me, it wasn't necessarily fulfilling. It was going to be helpful in medicine, but it wasn't like directly helping people in the way that I felt like I could help people. Right. And so I quit that program, and it took me like 2 years to actually get in that program. And so my parents were incredibly, incredibly disappointed in me. And this was a point where I would say it was like the lowest point of my life where like I just didn't know what to do. And then I just decided like, I love fitness. There's like this thing called CrossFit. I really like it. A friend introduced me to CrossFit when I was playing rugby. And so I started basically training out of my garage. And then slowly from there, I had people coming over and working out of my garage. And then after that, one of my friends, his aunt had a space that they wanted to, utilize. So we started like the first CrossFit gym out of there called CrossFit Progression. And then eventually I partnered up with an individual through Progression, and we, had this business partnership, and that lasted for about 5 years or so. And so, and that story is kind of a long story, but essentially, like for those 5 years as in this business partnership for CrossFit at CrossFit Progression, it was a great learning experience, and it just didn't work out. And so after that position there, I left, and at the time with my wife and I, we're like, this is like 2014 at this point. We just had a son. She just wanted me to like kind of settle down and chill out. And so, I did. For that summer, I created and made an amazing home gym out of our garage. I mean, it was, I had like everything possible that you could think of as a home gym. And then people started coming to the gym. And then eventually all of a sudden, like I started running classes out of my like garage gym where we were having like 40 people come through my garage a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So at that point, then like I realized like, oh, like, people actually value, what I'm doing. So let's go and like, start a new gym. So that's where, CrossFit Detour came out in 2014, found a nice small little space. And, ever since then, this is where we're at now.
No, everything's a lesson learned. You have to figure out I feel like it's so hard to, be in the Rochester community and not like be drawn to a medical field. Like it just happens because it's all around you. And, I had not the same experience, but a similar experience where I went into graduate school for molecular biology because I thought that was going to be a great career and like hated every single second of it. And I got my PhD and even did like a 3-year postdoc. So this is like,
oh my God, you're like super involved.
10 years.
Oh my gosh.
Before I was like, at least. So yeah, I give you like, it's so hard to like have that understanding and self-awareness to be like, I need to stop because this is not for me. And like follow, understand like where you draw energy and fulfillment from.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny is like at the end of the day, like I pursued my passion. And no matter what, like I stuck to that, right? Like there's always mistakes going on and there's always like lessons learned. But I'm very proud that I pursued what made me happy versus pursuing something that I knew was not going to fulfill who I thought my potential could be.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Yeah, so like you said, you kind of were growing out of your gym, had this previous experience at CrossFit progression and, taking those lessons learned, realizing you're getting too big for like your garage. So what was the decision, with your family too? You had a wife at that point, at least one child. What was the discussion about, hey, this seems to be working. Now we want to take this and like get a space and really see what happens here. What decisions were going through your mind at that time to make that step?
Honestly, there wasn't really like a lot. Like I felt like I've learned a lot from the previous experience. So like just like the like the basics of like creating the LLC, like the basic business aspects, like I understood, right? But there's also a lot of other areas that like I didn't have a lot of control or awareness of, like, so, like just make sure like the legality of things, the accounting, things like that, like all the bookwork. I never was in charge of all that. So like learning that process and understanding that, and even till like now, is still like one of those things that like was kind of on my mind. But at the end of the day too, it's just, like my wife Stacy was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Like she just, she supported that, and we wanted to make sure that what we were doing was, all the steps were taken before we pursued it. So
yeah, it's so important to have that spousal support. It's so hard. I mean, I don't know how you would do it without that.
I wouldn't be like, Detroit wouldn't be around if I didn't have Stacy around. So, I mean, if she didn't support and believed in what we were doing, like we wouldn't be here.
Yeah, no, I hear that. So you started Detour in
2014.
2014. Okay, that's what I thought. So for people, not familiar with it, can you share what Detour is and kind of what experience you want people to have?
So Detour is a space that we do group fitness. That's like our, bread and butter. There's a lot of group fitness gyms out there, right? There's like Orange Theory, Burn Boot Camp, Pharaohs. I mean, you name it. There's other CrossFit gyms out there. All of them are very, uniquely different, and they're incredible, right? Like everyone just has to find like their home. And for us, like our goal with Detour is basically connecting with people that are like essentially, meeting them at where they're at. Right. So like a lot of people, like they have detours in their life. Right. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we think about, we think as detours as this negativity. Right. But to me, like if it wasn't for my detour in life and like, all these instances, especially when, I left that previous business partnership and then decided to pursue my own, like I wouldn't be where I'm at. And so the name Detour just came out because of that. Right. And this sounds so cliche, but like our gym experience. So we have amazing workouts, we have amazing coaches, but like the biggest thing that is of the highest value is the community. And it doesn't matter like where, what your background is, if you're like, ex-college athlete or pro athlete to like the, like the house mom or soccer mom, whatever, like everyone is in there to support each other. And that's one of those, components and what's the like culture that we wanted to create in there. Like we want to make sure that everyone, no matter where you're coming from, like you're going to be supportive. And so it's something that we strive for, and like like we're very involved with like doing social activities outside the gym. From maybe like we go out to the beach or to the pool or something, or we'll have like a game night or something like that, or sometimes we do some pretty big parties around town. And so like it's just different. So it becomes like once you get yourself involved within our gym, it's not just a gym. Like the gym is just kind of almost secondary. Like the fitness results are all secondary, but the relationships that you develop, the friendships that you develop, that's that's where we're very special at.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, fitness is a journey, and it's important to go in and because it can be very intimidating for people, especially like you said, if they're starting from a detour, if they're starting, they haven't been working out for months, years, maybe coming back from an injury. Everyone's coming from a different place. And, that fact that nobody is judging you and you're just kind of accepted. And I think that's a huge part of it, the community and those people that, you become super close with.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And I think that's what I love about my job. Again, it's not a job. It's just I get to hang out with my friends and put them through a nasty workout and then laugh about it and then, high five each other afterwards.
Yeah. So when you first started Detour, it was in a smaller location, about 2,000 square feet, right? And then you built out a much larger facility, about 10,000 square feet on kind of frontage road, right at the end of 2019, from what I understand.
Yep.
So, well, first of all, how did you, what were you seeing that you said, okay, now we need a bigger space? And then how did you kind of find that space and outfit it to what you wanted?
So basically from 2018 to 2019, I was always kind of looking for additional space. We just felt like, 2,000 square feet was not big enough. Right?
Yeah, it's not super big.
But I mean, we became incredibly efficient in there. And I mean, if you look at some of the other fitness studios out there, I know Orange Theory is not that large as far as their studio goes. But I mean, they're limited with what they can do as well. So they have the treadmill station and the rowers and then the free weights, but that's kind of it. It's laying out. Where else in CrossFit you see a lot more running around, barbell work. We have the skier, true form bikers. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we are utilizing in our workouts. So it wasn't terrible or anything like that as far as that small space, but once we got bigger, it was amazing. And as far as finding the space, one of my the guy that actually found us our space for progression back in the day actually reached out to me hey Matt, Salvation Army just left and there's this big, they got this big space, why don't you come check it out? So went out and checked it out in the summer 2019, and I was holy crap, this is it. This is what's kind of funny is, one, the space was on the opposite side of our old space of progression. So there was a lot of history there.
Yeah.
Two, it was also the same space that my daycare used to be at before Salvation Army for my oldest son. And so it was kind of weird where this full circle was happening with finding the space at the right time and moment. And then it was just as soon as I walked in through the doorway, it was okay, this is definitely it. And so the next day I brought my coaches in and what do you guys think of this? This can be Detour right here. And they're F yeah, this is amazing. Cool. So yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a coincidence, luck, and I think karma to find that and be all right, we're ready, let's go.
Yeah, that's super cool. To find a place that just feels so right. Yeah,
no, that's cool.
And just makes sense. It sounds like you haven't had any hesitations either with moving from one step to the other. Mm-hmm. How do you think about risk? Because I think for a lot of people, it's really owning a small business, doing some of these things you're doing are super risky and scary to people. Mm-hmm. So how do you think about that yourself?
I'm very confident with what we do. In my heart, I'm doing this because I want to help people, right? I want to thrive in business, don't get me wrong. And I want to make sure my coaches are taken care of. But at the end of the day, I absolutely love what I do. I'm changing lives directly. Every day I'm talking to someone and, building them up and having their back and giving them the love that they need, whatever that might be, and changing lives. And so for me, there's absolutely zero hesitation or fear for what I do because I know what I'm doing is amazing. And so I know people are going to continue to, come in and realize what we're doing is, what they need.
It's funny. We just had a marketing seminar And they were saying, like, you know, a lot of the times people are just like pushing product, and it's like, no, we should be talking about the purpose instead. Like, how are you solving a problem for people? You know, and that's like exactly what you were saying. You know, if you're fulfilling a need and like helping people, you know, it kind of just falls into place most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So you opened up your new location in
November 2019.
November 2019.
Yep.
Okay. And then, you know, we get to March in 2020, and obviously this last year has been probably one of the most challenging years you've ever faced. So what was that like? How did you have to be creative to kind of make it to today?
I think a lot of it was, again, that belief that what we were doing was the right thing to do. I mean, there was, you know, especially for gyms and restaurants, there were so many limitations for us to like thrive. Like, I don't see any other places like truly thrive, like from this past situation. Maybe McDonald's, because they have an amazing drive-through system, right? But for us, it was just like, what was hard was every month it felt like we were being told to do something different. And so we had to adjust on the fly. So for instance, like March, you know, first 2 weeks get shut down. We're like, okay, like it's only going to be 2 weeks. So we're just going to go ahead, run virtual classes. And, you know, in 2 weeks, we'll see everyone. But then it became longer, then became like a month and a half or 2 months to like June, right? And so from that point on, we're like, okay, like let's go ahead. We're going to loan out our equipment that we can to our members and continue running like these virtual classes. So that's what we did. But then in June, things opened up outside. And so we spent a lot of money to create this outdoor space. So we built this pull-up station that had like 24 pull-up bars outside, brought my mats out there, equipment, and started running classes outside. But then like a week and a half later, then we were allowed to go back indoors. So, you know, like, so this is where like it was difficult for us to, you know, have a clear-cut plan month to month because everything was changing month to month, right? And so, you know, I would say from July through September, things felt kind of normal, right? Like, you know, like we didn't really have that mandatory mask mandate. COVID numbers seemed to be okay because at the time, none of us really believed what was going on, including myself. But then, you know, when October or November hit, that's when things got very real. I know a lot of my friends that I felt like were incredibly fit individuals were getting sick and getting really sick. And so like, we're like, okay, like things are like, this is serious. And so basically, you know, our growth was never like, you know, during that period of time too, like our growth was kind of just like stagnant. Like we never, like up till COVID, we were having tremendous growth and those things were going great. And then like this whole past year has just been like flatline, right? But then November hit and then had the mandatory shutdown. That just killed us because like it was one thing for shutting us down back in, you know, the first time, but the second time it was just like people could only, you know, support you for so long, right? And so we had the second shutdown in November through, I think like it was all the way through December. And in my mind, because COVID numbers were increasing, I was thinking this shutdown was going to be months. So I was thinking like this was going to be through all of winter. And so what we did instead, like before we, you know, rented out like what we could and loaned it out. And this time around, I bought rowers, bikes, assault bikes. Like I bought basically 50 new rowers, bikes, and bikers and whatever, as well as thousands and thousands of pounds of weights because I had better access to getting these things than my members did. And we basically created all these home gyms that we were able to give to our members. So because these, you know, people were still paying us because they're still trying to support us. So it was kind of like, let's support them back and give them a home mini gym that they probably don't have access to, like purchase themselves right now. And so I think we created like 110 like mini gyms. Like so everyone had either like a rower or bike. Everyone had a kettlebell and a set of dumbbells and then some bands and things like that. So that everyone had that, not just, like some some people might have had more if they bought more, but like I wanted to make sure it was like, fair for everyone. So everyone had that. And so from, basically from that November, December time period, like everyone had their own home gym. And then we were able to open back in January, like partially with the mask mandate through, this until what was it, May? Yeah. May.
Yeah.
But we allowed, so we continued doing virtual classes through that period of time for people that were, concerned about coming in for safety reasons, but also like started running classes and then kept on doing like the virtual classes and whatever. So it was just a very it was just constant change and evolution and figuring things out. Even with our gym, when we were able to reopen, we spent a lot of money and time as well just to make it safer, like put in like dividers, things like that up to make sure that like people felt safe and like the cross contamination, all that stuff was contained. So it was just just a lot of stress. That's all I can say.
Well, it has to be super frustrating when like you're adjusting to one like whatever mandate, or I don't even know what you would call it. I guess that's what it is, set of rules. Mm-hmm. And then like 3 weeks later it changes. Mm-hmm. Then a month later it changes. So it has to be extremely frustrating. And it
was definitely frustrating. And I know some gyms didn't abide by those.
Right.
And I'm not going to like complain or anything like that. That's their decision. Like I respect that. But for me, it was like, I wanted to stick to the rules, keep my members safe, but also offer them the most I could, right? And so that's what we tried doing the entire time. And I think the biggest thing from this past year was, one, I still realize I love the fuck of what I do. Like I love it. Like I absolutely love helping people. And, this past year has definitely showed me that passion is very much in there. It's never died down. And then two, it's just like, we want to make sure that like this past year we wanted to invest in our people. We wanted to, you're stuck at home, and a lot of parents had homeschool. A lot of people didn't have a lot of things to do to deal with stress besides drinking excessively or food. So basically everything that we couldn't do that was healthy for us, social interaction, going out, getting sun, working out, things like that, it was completely cut off. So to me, this was like one of those few things that I could give to people that would be beneficial for them. And so there was no question, this is what we had to do.
Yeah. And, I think when you invest in people and show how much you care about them, they care so much more back about you. And I think that is so cool that you bought equipment for everybody, because especially like when you were talking like November, December, that's when everybody, things got bad again as far as whatever state mandates, federal mandates, and everyone was trying to order stuff, workout equipment, if they even could, if they had the means to do it. And like there was nothing available. Yeah,
I'm a really good shopper, and I had good contacts as well. But yeah, there was no, for me, it was just like, I was just like, okay, we're getting this, and this, and I ordered it. And it's just, there was just no question. Like we had to get this in so we can get it to our people.
Yeah, no, that is super cool. So what are you seeing now? We're recording in, mid-June. What is your kind of outlook on 2021? What are you seeing in kind of your community?
I think people are realizing how important it is to be surrounded by other people for working out. There's just something incredibly strong and powerful when you're working out next to someone, and it's just like that camaraderie that you build, right? And don't get me wrong, my wife has a Peloton, and working out at home is great, and I know a lot of people are still doing that, but the emotional benefits and psychological benefits that you get from working out with others is immense. And you see it. You see people's faces just all of a sudden just getting smiles. And coming to Detour is the best hour of that person's day, when they had a crappy day. And it's amazing. So, I think this past year has been a blessing in a lot of ways, where we know and have found our our meaning, like our purpose. All of my coaches are even just more bought in more than ever with it, because they've also seen like just how much they changed these people's lives. And it's just, like I see 2021 as something as kind of like a restart, like I'm starting over. But at the same time, it's like I'm starting over and even, 1,000% more passionate for what we do.
Yeah.
Because we truly have seen like what we were doing is essentially saving lives. Like, and I'll be like honest, like, there's people who are dealing with a lot of depression. And I think we prevented a lot of things that could have been a lot worse for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that social aspect, like you can't really underestimate that. Like I think I forgot, like, just the past month being able to interact with people and like people aren't wearing masks and just like how
seeing the smile.
Right, exactly. You can just connect better. Like
Yeah.
it's so weird to be, and I'm so sick of Zoom. Like
I hate
everyone's so sick of it. Like I can't even engage with it anymore. Like I can't do it. So yeah, even just, being able to come in and talk in person like this and having, I'm a huge runner. I appreciate the running community too, because, it's camaraderie and it's, when you're pushing for a goal and a big goal, some aspect of fitness, it's really hard. And, having those people who understand it, who can continue to push you, but know when not to too, that's like invaluable, because it's the same thing as a business. Like you have to surround yourself with like-minded people, because they're the ones who understand, and who will push you and encourage you.
That's the other thing. Like, I feel like I met a lot of small business owners in Rochester that I never would have met before or have gotten to know. And that was amazing as well. Like, it's just cool to just all of a sudden like, hey, like I'm suffering through this too. Let's do this together. And it's been very cool to see that.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned, a lot of people, listening maybe have an idea for a business, maybe have just started a business. Do you have any, I hate the word advice because I feel like it's so cliched, but, was there anything that you learned that was like surprising about starting a business that people should kind of be thinking about as they're getting started?
Oh, yeah. I think the biggest advice that I would give to everyone would be like, you're going to make mistakes. And instead of using the mistakes as something as a negative, to use them as a positive growth point. I mean, I'm still making a lot of mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes, and in hindsight, looking back, it's just like, if I didn't have that mistake, I wouldn't be the individual I am right now, or I wouldn't, have made the changes that I should have made. So like I'm very self-aware and honest about who I am and, what I've done, and look and use those as a way to grow. So I think that's like the biggest advice I would give to anyone that's starting out a small business is you're going to make mistakes, accept it.
Yeah, I know. You can't get away from them, right?
No.
You have to make them. That's just a part of it. And like you said, it's, you're either succeeding or you're learning.
Yeah.
That's all that there really is.
Yeah.
So I think I always like to ask people too, I think you talked about why you're passionate about, fitness and helping people. Why do you love being a business owner? Why come back to doing this day after day?
I don't know if I like necessarily love being a business owner per se. I mean, it's more of like I love what I do, so I'm kind of automatically a business owner. Like I can't ever work for someone else. That sounds awful, but like I'm not a good employee. I've worked for Mayo Clinic and I was terrible for them. Like it's just I have this very strong personality that fits perfectly for my business, my culture, and like that's it. I mean, like that's weird, right?
I don't think it's weird. I think that's a very common path. It's like, you see this need and who else is going to do it but you? So, you got to do
exactly.
it, so yeah, that was my last question. I'll wrap up by asking you for any final thoughts and where can people find Detour in person and online?
Oh man. Final thoughts again, like, pursue your passion, pursue your happiness. And sometimes like the biggest mistakes are probably like the biggest, like, starting points for like for that passion or your happiness. Like, again, like I was the complete, like, I have my brother and my sister, and I was like that, just the dark horse, or like, the guy that was just making all the mistakes in his life. But at the end of the day, like, I pursued what I knew was right in my heart, and I'm probably the happiest out of the three of us.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So
well,
like,
not that they're not, but
I mean, they're happy, but like like I'm trying to live a life with like no regrets, and live a life where like I am helping people, and I know I am, and I love that, right? And so I think it's just like, at the end of the day, like, pursue what's going to make you happy. But anyways, and then as far as like Detour, we're located on Highway 52 North behind Slumberland Furniture. It used to be where like the old Salvation Army was. And then our website is thisisdetour.com.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks so much for stopping in today and sharing your journey and lessons learned. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This was such a great conversation to share with you today. Thanks so much to Matt for telling your story and allow us to share that with the community. You can learn more about Detour Athletics by checking out the links in our show notes. To everyone listening in, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today. If you were listening and you just know somebody else who should hear what Matt had to say as well, please share this podcast with them so that they can learn more about this business owner and his journey in the community. All right, that is a wrap for us at Rochester Rising today. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with us. Before you leave today, if you enjoyed today's show, please make sure that you are subscribed. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please rate it as well wherever you are listening in so that others can find these stories about entrepreneurship and small business taking place in Rochester, Minnesota.